All right, passport ready. Because we're heading to Istanbul, and trust me, this deep dive is gonna make you want to book that trip, like yesterday.
No doubt. Istanbul is one of those cities that just grabs you. But choosing where to stay, that can make or break the whole experience.
Totally. I mean, we all love scrolling through those dreamy travel pics, but no one wants to end up in a hotel next to the construction site, Central, right?
Right, been there, got the Jackhammer soundtrack stuck in my head. But seriously, understanding Istanbul's neighborhoods is key. And that's what we're diving into today, the vibes, the pros, the maybe not so pros, so our listener can find their perfect match.
Exactly. And luckily, I've got you here. So let's lay the groundwork. When we're talking Istanbul neighborhoods, what's the big picture?
All right, picture this. Istanbul, this ancient city straddling two continents, Europe and Asia, split right down the middle by the Bosphorus Strait.
Okay, so geographically, already, we're talking two very distinct experiences.
You got it. It's almost like two cities in one. You've got the European side where you find those iconic landmarks. Think Hagia Sophia, grand palaces, echoes of the Byzantine and Ottoman empires.
Super historic, probably tourist central, right?
You know it. Then hop across the Bosphorus ferry rides and experience it itself, and boom, you're in Asia, the other half of Istanbul.
And what's the vibe on that side?
Think more local, more traditional. It's where you'll find those winding alleys, the smell of spices in the air, the hustle of daily life. Less about the postcard moments, more about real, authentic Istanbul.
I love that. Okay, so two sides to the city, each with its own personality. Now, for our listener who's ready to pack their bags, where do we even begin to break down these neighborhoods?
All right, let's start with the classics. If someone's dreaming of ancient wonders and that I'm standing in a history book feeling, Sultanahmet on that historic peninsula is the place.
Makes sense. It's where a lot of the famous landmarks are, right?
Exactly. You've got Hagia Sophia, the Blue Mosque, Topkapi Palace, all right there. Imagine waking up, looking out your window, and seeing that view. It's magical, I won't lie.
Sounds amazing. But I'm going to guess magical in Istanbul probably also means packed with tourists.
Yeah, you kind of have to embrace the crowds in Sultanahmet, especially during peak season, and be ready to shell out a little more for those incredible views.
Right, location, location, location. But hey, you're on vacation. Splurging a little is allowed, although maybe not all our listeners are into the whole tourist central thing. So what about those travelers who prefer to escape the crowds? Got any insider tips for them?
Oh, absolutely. For a taste of something a little different, let's jump back across the Golden Horn, that's another waterway in Istanbul, by the way, to a neighborhood called Balat.
Balat. Okay, I'm intrigued. What's special about Balat?
Historically, Balat was the Jewish quarter, and it's got this incredible mix of old and new. Think colorful buildings, cobblestone streets, vintage shops, cool cafes, street art.
Oh, wow. So more of an artsy bohemian vibe then.
Exactly. And because it's a bit off the typical tourist trail, you'll find more local life, more affordable places to eat and drink, and a much more laid-back atmosphere.
Okay, so maybe not the postcard perfect view of the Blue Mosque, but an experience all its own.
For sure. You're in the heart of it, soaking up the real Istanbul. And hey, you can always hop on a tram or ferry and be whisked back to Sultanahmet in no time.
See, that's the thing about Istanbul. It's got something for everyone. Speaking of getting around, Istanbul is huge. How easy is it to get around, especially for someone who's never been there before?
Honestly, Istanbul's public transport is surprisingly good. You've got trams, buses, and ferries that connect pretty much every corner of the city. The Istanbul card, that's their version of a travel card, is a lifesaver, much easier than fumbling for lira every time.
Good to know. Now, I hate to bring this up, but safety is always on our minds when traveling. Any neighborhoods we should mention where our listener might need to be a little more cautious?
You know, Istanbul overall is a pretty safe city. But like any major city, you've got to have your wits about you. Just the usual stuff. Be mindful of your belongings in crowded areas. Maybe avoid wandering alone late at night in less populated areas. Common sense goes a long way.
Absolutely. Stay aware of your surroundings. Okay, before we let our listeners go book their tickets, any last words of advice? What's the one thing they shouldn't miss when choosing their ideal Istanbul neighborhood?
Honestly, I think it boils down to this. What kind of experience do you want? Do you want to be in the thick of it, waking up to the call to prayer, surrounded by those incredible landmarks? Or do you want Discover those hidden corners, lose yourself in the back streets, and really get a feel for the local life.
It's all about finding your own Istanbul. And hey, if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry, we've got you. We've put together a whole bunch of awesome travel deals, tips, and links in our episode description. Everything from flights and hotels to insider tips on the best places to try Turkish delight. So make sure you check those out.
And, no matter where you choose to stay, one thing's for sure, Istanbul will leave its mark on you.
It's a city that stays with you long after you've left. All right, safe travels, everyone, and happy exploring.